My fellow flames of Amethyst, Black Beacon has been one of the best gacha experiences I have ever had, and that is not just because of the amazing combat and gameplay this game has to offer, but because of the well-written story. In my opinion, this is one of the best written stories I have ever played in a gacha game, and potentially is one of my favourite stories in gaming, period. And my fellow flames, I hate to say this, but this game actually made me cry. Yep. This game made me cry to the point where I threw my phone across my room because of the plot twists this game had to offer. The story of Black Beacon truly is beautiful, and I cannot wait for each and every one of you to experience this story if you have not yet done so. The writing of the plot within Black Beacon truly is something to behold, and the characters within the story are written almost perfectly. This game has done the one thing that not many other games in the past have been able to do, and that is a well-written idea surrounding time travel. This game has created an almost perfect time travel story where everything you do and everything you see makes sense. All of the loose ends are tied up nicely, and the time travel continuity within this world is done in such a clever way, it all makes sense. Usually, within a time travel story, things are left unexplained and you are left confused because, of course, time travel is very, very confusing. It's very wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, and certain things in these certain stories around time travel make you go, well, hang on a minute. What about this? Or what about that? They didn't explain this, but how could that happen if it's a paradox? This game does all of that, and they explain it in such a clever way, you will be very impressed with the writing of Black Beacon. On top of that, each character we meet within the story has a significant amount of depth to them, and the lore and past of each of these characters is explained in such an exquisite way where I get very immersed and attached to these characters. Some of these characters made me feel so sad or happy for them, it genuinely brought tears to my eyes. One character in particular, which is one of the characters that did make me cry, was Erishan. Erishan is one of the members of the Emian, a group of people that protect the Tower of Babel and are guardians of the Library of Babel. And we are going to be talking about why this character in particularly made me cry so much. This is the character that caused me to throw my phone across my room. Why this character broke my heart, and why the events surrounding this character have stayed with me ever since I first experienced the Black Beacon story back in the beta, and playing through it again for the second time for its official launch has just, again, hit me in my feels. It's made me feel a very similar way as it did back in the beta. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And without further ado, let's get into this. Erishan, a member of the Emian and a librarian at the Library of Babel, is the granddaughter of the great former director known as Cosmos. Before Zero joined the Emian, everyone assumed that Erishan would naturally succeed her grandfather as the next director of the Emian. Erishan herself lived with this goal in mind, working diligently every day to be more like her grandfather. However, one day, Cosmos unexpectedly adopted a strange girl known as Zero, and named her, for whatever reason, as his successor. After that moment, Erishan's life was torn in two. Before that day, she was an outstanding and dedicated librarian. However, after this event, she began to show a more cynical side of her nature. Erishan made no effort to hide her disdain and stopped referring to Cosmos as her grandfather from the moment Zero arrived. She began to resent Zero, naturally, since Zero, in Erishan's eyes, took her rightful place as the future of the Emian as the Emian's director. She started taking long-term assignments away from the Babel Tower, avoiding returning whenever possible. Those around her, the once familiar granddaughter of the great director, had transformed into this enigmatic and unpredictable young reckless woman known as Erishan. All records of her past were personally destroyed by Erishan herself when she bid farewell to the tower. The first time we meet Erishan is at the start of the Black Beacon story, when we are by accident thrown into the distant future and awaken in an alternate timeline that is not our own. We then come into contact with a future variant of Erishan, who proceeds to tell us that the future we have just entered is dying and in ruin, due to the ancient sun god known as Aten. She then instructs us to go back to our present contact our present-day Erishan and told to find a character named Tasni, who is going to give us a command to stop Arten from destroying the Tower of Babel, destroying the Library of Babel, and preventing this desolate future from coming to pass. When we returned to our time, we explained to the members of the Emirhan exactly what we just witnessed and exactly what just happened. Obviously, they're a bit skeptical, but they believe us due to the fact that the Library of Babel has the ability to manipulate time. For when you travel through the Tower of Babel and when you travel through the Library of Babel, you go through different time sectors and end up at different timelines. But the fact that we can travel through timelines indirectly instead of going through these time sectors is rather unique. So the Emirhan are not only wary of us, but they are also very interested in who we are, since we came out of nowhere with a pendant that Cosmos, Erishan's grandfather, gave to us, which gives us the permissions to become the next in line to lead the Emirhan. And because of that, they have no choice but to believe and trust us. We then come into contact with our present day's Erishan and proceed to explain to her what this mysterious future variant explained to us about finding Tasni and this mysterious command to stop the end of the world. Naturally, she does not believe us in the slightest, as she does not know who the hell we are, because for her, this is our first time meeting. And hearing a stranger with a mysterious power to travel through time at will explain to her the events that happen in the future and explain to her that the future we actually accidentally travel to is in ruin, in disarray, and looks like it's dying, to her sounds very unrealistic and to her sounds very outlandish and gives her a pretty good reason not to trust us and gives her a pretty good reason to be very wary. However, eventually, with some convincing from the rest of the Emirhan members and the fact that we met Cosmos in person, her grandfather, and he gave us the pendant which gives us the permissions to be the next in line to lead the Emirhan, his successor, she reluctantly agrees to travel across the time sectors of the library to prevent this future from coming to pass and to find Tasni to find this command that's going to stop Arten from destroying the tower, destroying the library, and potentially the world. Zero also accompanies us when playing through the story of Black Beacon, so it's going to be us, Erishan, and Zero who travels through the time sectors of the beacon and travels through the time sectors of the library in order to find these commands, in order to find this mysterious Tasni character to prevent this destructive future from coming to pass. As we continue through the first arc of the game, Erishan continues to question who we are, giving us attitude, showing blunt and reckless behavior, and continues not to trust us. But with every action we take, every action we do towards helping people and uncovering the secrets preventing this destructive future, her guard gradually, over time, begins to drop. She begins to question whether we are actually a threat or potentially an ally, and eventually begins to warm up to us. However, she still, in typical Erishan fashion, continues to tease and wind us up and act like she doesn't trust us, but in reality, it starts to become obvious it's just an act to protect her feelings, and she actually has taken a liking to us. As we experience more over the course of the game story, together we begin to get along, debate, joke, and see eye to eye. Even Zero starts to get along with Erishan, when before they really did not get along and really did not like each other at all due to the fact that Erishan felt betrayed by her grandfather due to the fact that he gave Zero, a stranger in Erishan's eyes, the permissions to become the next in line to rule the Emirhan and to take over the Library of Babel and to lead them in continuing to protect the library and continuing to protect the Tower of Babel from enemies and from outsiders and from potential threats. In Erishan's eyes, this was a betrayal of her family, and in Erishan's eyes, she can never trust anyone again due to the fact that her own flesh and blood turned her back on her when not giving her the permissions to rule the Emirhan. As we go through the story, we begin to understand the struggles and the confrontations that Erishan has experienced and begin to understand that what she's feeling and thinking is justified. How would you feel if your own mother, father, grandfather, grandmother brought a stranger into the house and treated them like their own and treated them better than they ever treated you? It's a beautiful journey and a beautiful start to a great friendship between the three of us, between Erishan, us, and Zero. However, There is an event that changes the course of our friendship and changes the course of the future of the story of Black Beacon forever. And this twist really got to me. This is the twist that made me cry and throw my phone across my room. Eventually, we obtain the commands to stop Arten from bringing down the tower, bringing down the library, and saving everyone. And when we receive these commands, the look in Erishan's eyes change and darken. A cynical grin then appears upon her face, and after reading the command to stop Arten from destroying the tower and the Library of Babel, she then looks at us, tears up the piece of paper containing the command, throws it into the wind, and proceeds to attack us. She betrayed us, betrayed everything we stood for, betrayed the journey that we just experienced together, and for what? Turns out, Erishan has been wanting the library and the tower to fall for quite some time. She's had these desires ever since her own grandfather gave Zero the permissions to lead the Emian, to become the next seer in line after Cosmos himself. This jealousy turned her mad, so she turned her back on the Emian, turned her back on everything she stood for, and joined Nemesis, a secret organization and an enemy of the Emian, an enemy of the tower and the library. And since we came back from the future, telling Erishan about a future version of herself that the library and the tower has fallen, it gave the present-day Erishan the opportunity she's wanted for a long time. The opportunity to finally actualize that future and destroy the tower and destroy the library for good. Destroy everything her grandfather built and destroy everything he stood for. This was the revenge she's wanted for a long time. And now she has the key to do it. Us. The ability to travel through time to actualize this devastating future. The betrayal she felt after Cosmos gave Zero the permissions instead of her has built up and turned not just into resentment, but to hatred. And that hatred drove her away from the tower, drove her away from Cosmos, and drove her away from the Emian. This is the downfall and the breaking point of Erishan. Wielding a scythe, she moved effortlessly through space, unleashing reckless destructive power to buy Arten the time needed for the explosion. In the end, she perished in the flames. Not only did she actualize that future, she actualized her death. No one truly understood her motives, not even Zero, not even Nana, and potentially not even her own grandfather, who had known her for years, because I knew my end. I chose the shortest path, she once said. Perhaps she was simply walking the destined road to her demise. It's rather ironic that this story is about time travel, and maybe if Cosmos considered Erishan as the next in line to rule the Emian, this future would never have happened. Erishan's journey through the story of Black Beacon and everything we experienced together truly makes her an astonishing character, one of the best written characters in gacha gaming in my personal opinion. I genuinely got attached to this character, and I genuinely felt for her when she kept on explaining the fact that she felt betrayed, however, she was doing the thing she felt was right. However, what we didn't realize was the thing that she felt was right was not saving the tower and the library. In fact, it was destroying it. And her resentment and her betrayal turned her mad. And maybe if we'd have realized prior, we could have saved her. Instead, we actualized that future and she killed herself in the process, dying within the explosion of Arten. This really did make me cry, and this betrayal really got to me, as I really got attached to the roster of these characters, and I really enjoyed the journey that we experienced with these characters. And seeing this level of betrayal, top 10 anime betrayals indeed, it really got to me. It really got to me. And I do believe that this is one of the best written characters, one of the most tragic characters in gacha gaming, and I definitely think it's worth a read, worth a playthrough, and just worth playing through the story and seeing if you connect these characters just like I did. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you found this video entertaining. If you want more lore videos like this in the future for Black Beacon, hit that like and comment, and subscribe if you're new. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.